You're with Matthew, you're at the Hub, and you may not know it, but you're also in the Matrix. And we're here again with Kevin Kling, exploring disability. He lives with the disability, depending on how you think about it, so do I. But there's a sense in which when you've gone through any trauma loss or disability, so expand it beyond disability, that if you're paying attention, you also gain some sort of superpower. And you learned that early on as a kid, that you could use your disability to get what you needed and get done. I learned it too, but it's not just everyone's gained a superpowers or a superpower from their life. And that's something we want to hear from you about. However, I want to talk about the superpowers, that story that you tell of the little girl.
Yeah.
I love this story.
I teach a class every once in a while, and I tell these kids, I'll say, okay, your resilience comes from how you belong, like your family and faith community gives you resilience, but your power comes from what makes you different. And so I talk about my arm and why that gives me power, and then every kid comes up with something that makes them different, and then we come up with superhero characters, like that thing that made them different, and then they come up with a villain, and they make these characters. So we're going around the room, and all the kids are telling their superhero stories. And I get to this little girl, and she hasn't said anything all week. And I said, what makes you different? And she goes, I'm really shy. And I go, I know, yeah, you haven't said anything since I've been here. And I go, but why does that give you power? And she goes, because sometimes people don't know I'm in the room, and I'm invisible, and I know everything. And then she did. Like, I could ask about any student. She knew about every kid. I'd ask about teachers. She knew all. Or sometimes I'd be talking to a teacher, like, there she is, standing right there.
That's exactly
and
right.
then, so I decided to listen like that little girl. And what I discovered was, like, deep listening, super deep, is empathy. And empathy is like listening with more than your ears. It's some kind of visceral listening. And the gift of it is you get this other person's wisdom through their experience. So you don't have to go through the experience. You glean wisdom through another. And yeah, empathy is a really amazing thing.
And that's part of the thing about listening to stories. You recognize things about yourself in the story that allow you to move whatever you need to move.
That's the idea,
thing,
yeah.
And the whole idea, I mean, one of the reasons why Mind Body Solutions is formed around transforming trauma, loss, and disability is not just because we feel sorry for the people with trauma, loss, and disability. We actually think that they hold superpowers and that our culture needs to listen more deeply to what's a universally shared experience.
Well, that's what a story is where perception and perspective meet. And what you're doing by talking with someone with a disability is you're getting a perspective from, outside, from the fringes. Because you don't learn from perception. You don't learn from what you already know. You have to go to the fringe. You have to go beyond your states of control before you learn anything. And if you can go there through another, then you get to learn through another. I mean, there's the whole Greek, Oedipus, everything. All those plays, all those stories were the ability to transcend this plane of existence through another and learn about yourself.
Yeah, and so one of the things is that's what this YouTube channel is about, is trying to get out the superpowers of trauma, loss, and disability. One of the stories you tell that I really like in Body Mind Story, one of the trainings we do, is a story about the girl, which I think in a way is exactly a superpower, the way she reacted, the little girl that was drawing the turkey.
Oh, yeah.
That
was another.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tell about after school, I'll say, because of my 4 fingers, I can't high five, but I can high 4. So this little girl comes up, and I go, high 4, and she goes, high 2. She had 2 fingers on one hand. So, all right, so we high 2. And then I asked her teacher, how's she doing? Because she's one of my people. And I go, well, how's that little girl doing? And her teacher goes, okay, let me tell you. She said, it was near Thanksgiving. It was November. And she says, we're doing a class where you put your hand on a piece of paper and you trace around your fingers. You make a turkey, remember, with your fingers as the feathers and your thumbs the head, and you put a beak on it. And the teacher's got a good idea. She said, put your other hand down and draw around that, and you'll have 2 turkeys facing each other. So all the kids did that, and they turned them in. And the teacher's going through the stack, and she comes to that little girl's picture And there's one turkey with all of its feathers, and then one turkey with just 2 feathers. She thinks, if I put that up, is that going to embarrass the little girl? So she told the little girl, you know, you can redo your drawing if you want, and you can use the same hand for both turkeys. So the little girl redid her drawing, 2 turkeys with 2 feathers on both sides. I go, yeah, and I go, that kid's going to be fine. And she goes, oh, let me tell you, she's already fine.
That's a superpower. That's the power of, you know, children have superpowers, right?
Yeah.
And they're more readily willing to accept them in as a meaningful thing. Us as adults don't like to think of our lives in terms of superpowers, but I'm telling you, not only is that girl going to be fine, like turning the world to what her perspective rather than vice versa. As adults, we spend way too much time trying to think we need to fit in. That story to me is a lesson about, oh my goodness, no, the world has to fit into my 2 fingers. Mm-hmm. And that's part of what we're exploring at Mind-Body Solutions and wanting to explore here in the Matrix. Until next time.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you saw, please subscribe to our channel.